this is the moment for change. This is
Yes.
the moment to remap. And we know how because we just got a rehearsal 5 years ago.
Yes.
We rehearsed this. We rehearsed this, we practiced, we performed it, and we made it. So we know it. We have to choose it.
Welcome, friends. I'm Kristen Merding, and this is Torches. Today we have investigator-innovator Chanon Judson. Chanon is a critically acclaimed choreographer and performer. I'm very excited to speak with her today. Welcome, Chanon.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So how did you come to be in downtown performance?
How did I come to be? So I moved to New York in 2001, and I think that I was already of the Zeitgeist before I actually was actively performing. My first homes were with the late Kwame Ross. He had a company, Prophecy, and it was the downtown spaces that when we performed, were found home. And by way of Kwame, made my way into the Urban Bushwoman circle. And certainly the story of Urban Bushwoman is that's the community that first embraced that ensemble in terms of its physicality and the complex ways in which they storytell. And then all of the artists that were actively making and doing things were at the Judson or these places that, maybe I can't even recall the names in the downtown community. I would find myself at places as a spectator, aspiring artist, just from like my beginning stories. And then fast forward to maybe about 2018, I think it was, when I was now like really in my making. And I think the first project I did was with The Flea. Nigel Smith invited me to partner with Megan Finn for The Invention of Tragedy. After that, I just had like this series of dream projects between The Flea and here, really made my home.
How do you see artistic lineage passed down or interrupted? And how does it influence your own work?
I think that for myself, if I go back to where I come from, Buffalo, New York, my father and my mother had a theater company. They were theater makers stemming out of Black arts movement, and so theater rehearsals happened in my house, performances, I was a part of them. They were at my school, they were in my community, and there was baked into that this notion that you make art that matters to your community, and you carry your community with you because your community has carried you. My father would say you were blessed to be a blessing. And so I think that in terms of lineage, I feel very dutiful to carry and hold the traditions that I've had the opportunity to study or embody. I think that that's part of the charge. You have these things because you are supposed to carry these things, but to also future them. And futuring them includes the interruption. Futuring includes the sourcing through okay, this thing we carry forward, this thing no longer serves us. This thing, I'm gonna take it, flip it, stretch it, and do it this way because that's the way that it, I would articulate it in my voice. So, I think futuring, it requires that you remember, carry, the past, but also in a way that's additive, in a way that's relevant.
And collaboration is a really big part of how you do that, because you collaboratively choreograph and perform, and you're giving and taking. So can you talk a little bit about how you make a space that's truly generative?
I love collaboration. I don't love collective, right? So, so when I tell people that often, I'm like, I'm not a collective girl. Like I love that there is defining or kind of a central space where we can default to decision making. We can trust that this person or these people are charged with the kind of definitive shaping of a thing. And they're also responsible for creating a community where folks feel invited and inspired to
Yeah.
give, to generate. That's both what I like to do. It's also a lot of what I've practiced. Coming from, again, watching my parents' ensemble practice, being a longtime company member with Urban Bushwomen, that's part of is part of what I know makes great work. More minds are just more better. Like
Yeah.
you just have richer product, and I'm a Virgo, so I like that definitive, like it gives it some structure and some architecture so that we don't stay in the. There's a formula where it's good to be inside of the pouring of ideas, and then it's good to shift so that we see, okay, and how do these things line up and shape so that we can create the desired story or the narrative that that we're trying to create.
Does this relate to what you call jazz embodiment? And could you talk a
Yeah.
little about that?
Jazz allows for and necessitates all those things. There is the have to shout out Talvin Wilkes. If you know Talvin Wilkes, he has these words. So his
Yes.
articulation of practice. So I'm bound to move in and out of Talvin vocab here. So one of the things we were working on a project. This was a collaboration between Mamdata Spies and Jawale Zahler and Talvin as dramaturg, Walking with Train. And inside of that, we were doing deep articulation around the kind of components of jazz, and we looked at this idea of band state, and inside of band state you have these individual instruments that all have their unique articulation. The keys are different from the sax, are different from the da da da
Right,
da da da
yeah.
da, like, and decidedly so. And there's a place where they work in harmony, and that's where we get that collaboration where. And then there's also places where it's like, and now this one solos. And so the ability to move from harmony to agreement to individual authorship, that's all part of how we move inside of jazz as an organizing aesthetic.
Yeah.
And those same principles can show up inside of ensemble making or collaborative making. You can make a space for folks to be in unison or an agreed idea. And then there's also beauty inside of individual points of view happening at the same time. Like we can hold dissonance in the space.
Soloing together.
Soloing together.
Right. Yeah, that's super cool. How do you balance experimentation like that with your craft? How do those things talk to each other?
I think at this point, a lot of it is craft because I've been practicing it for some time, and a lot of it is intuition. I think that had you caught me like 10 years ago, I probably would have had like a very Virgo formula for, how much time I allow myself to play and color outside the lines. And then when I feel like, okay, now we need to sink it in. At this point, I do feel like my antenna are sensitive enough to be able to gauge that in more real time. I think it depends on the who's in the room. That's another thing that I love about jazz is that you look at a jazz composition, they note the makers. You look at this album, it was because this drum was here, this person was on bass, and because of those players, they played a certain way and you got a certain product. And so as I go from project to project, ensemble projects to projects that are just meeting for maybe a short 3-month arc, all of those are different rooms, and so with different humans inside of them, and so the formula for how much you play when you bring the pieces together, it's always different.
How is it different when Urban Bushwomen, there were a bunch of you that were with the company for a really long time.
Yeah.
So you really know each other's
Yeah.
bodies. You really know what that person's instincts
Yeah.
are. Is there a shorthand or how's the
100%.
collaboration
Yeah.
different?
Yeah. I mean, when you have that shorthand and that knowing, there is a way where we can play in performative space in ways that I wouldn't necessarily shape for a group that's coming together for a shorter period of time. I think that part of the creating the container for play is undergirding it with certain, I'm using the word awarenesses now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think values, yes, but what are the things that we need to be aware of, rules of engagement, in order to play and build together? And I think that when you have folks that have been steeped in a certain, awarenesses over a period of time, there's ways that you can to fly. I think that an example is myself, Courtney, and Mamjada working together inside of the cannabis project. On one hand, there were moments where we could just soar, and then there were moments where it was like, oh, we need to like slow down, make space, because we have other players in here that don't speak our language. Also partnering with Tatiana Barber and Twice Light and Raka James, prolific players who are coming from different vantage points. That was definitely an interesting mix. I think it probably took us I would say from how I experienced it, maybe about a year and a half into that project to find the balance inside of the movement ensemble where we had a new set of awarenesses that supported us in being able to fly in that way.
I've seen your work in what I would say more of a pure dance space, but it's always hybrid, the work that I've seen.
Yeah.
But as opposed to a context where it's like a theater piece with a lot of dance or a multidisciplinary piece where dance is a part of the storytelling. So how is creating in those spaces different for you? Like you're with these people just for 3 months versus people you're with for years, but there are other ways I think the storytelling and the work is different.
Yeah, I think that in terms of a maker, the multidisciplinary spaces are the ones that feel, I'm going to say more intriguing and really actually more aligned with how I see and shape as a maker. Often when I go into the creation process, movement is not necessarily the thing that comes first. Sometimes it's like, I don't know what the dance is going to be, but I know what we're going to wear. And from that costume or from that, I can world build, or I don't have the physicality, but I have this language. So and that's been really my kind of making portal even inside of the pure dance spaces. And so I think that what I love about the more theatrical spaces is that I get to live inside of those ends more fully. I think that and then I think that the pure dance spaces give me that challenge of taking the very spirally, multifaceted way that my brain works and to really channel it into embodiment. How does this thing that you hear, these words, where does that live inside of your physical self? But I usually, for any movement solo that I ever do, there's usually somewhere a rant that I've written for it, or a voice note that I've talked it out. There's usually a playlist that goes with it. There's usually, this is how I work. There's usually a photo shoot that I did for it in my home of and this is how, so that I can find the of it to perform it. So it's I'm always mixing in the same buckets. But I think that different spaces allow me to, to activate and shape the work, and in one reality or the other.
Could you share a moment of pure joy in your work? Something
I have so many. I think that I have so many because I've had the opportunity to run some really inspiring works through my body, and so that's really exciting. And then I've had the opportunity to be in some rooms with makers that I'm just like, how am I here? Okay, don't question it, just be thankful. And so I mean, pure joy. I'm thinking about listening to Machine Dazzle talk about how the set that we were in for the hang was actually the inside of Socrates' body. And I'm just like, just the scope of visioning and dreaming and to actually like what that did for stretching the what's possible in my mind. Going to see the fray at the Flea, and that was the last work that I saw before COVID, and being inside of a ball pit with my boys. You know, I took my
Oh my
children
God, they
there,
must have
and
loved
they
it.
loved it. They left. They were like, we have to bring our friends. And, you know, and I got onto there's a moment when you can like, they ask for an audience volunteer. Of course, I'm going to volunteer to like jump in the ball pit. And I mean, all these, you know, they brought joy. They brought a stretch of the imagination. I mentioned, cannabis. There was a moment inside of that where Talvin was like, he wanted us to go out and talk with the audience beforehand. And I was just like, totally don't want to do this. I'm going to go attend to the plants. And then I loved it. I loved it to the point, like with one of the cast members was like, Chanon, why do you like this so much? And it opened up something that now is part of a know-how that I'm using inside of this like work in progress that I have. Yeah, certainly lots of joys from working with Nia Witherspoon. Both projects, I worked with her Chronicle X and Priestess of Twerk. The players that I got to work with there have been people that I have continued to collaborate with. Sid and Grace from that project, from Chronicle X, both then made appearances inside of Urban Bushman Works because I'm like, oh, there's a
They're both extraordinary artists.
they're
Yes.
extraordinary artists, and
Yeah.
you know, having the opportunity to cross paths with them inside of that work and build with them, it's like, okay, yes, more of this.
Yeah, awesome. You spoke about the body just a minute ago, and you've spoken about it as the first house. What does that mean to you? Or the first home?
The art making is akin to organizing for me. Again, you know, part of that lineage. And as an organizer, the principles that I hold, and this comes from, again, from my father, comes from the church. I grew up in a Pentecostal church, and then deeply informed by work with People's Institute of Survival and Beyond, and Urban Bushwoman. It's before you go out and say, I believe this or offer this to said community or people, it's like, how do these ideals first move through, inform, interrogate your own held beliefs or notions? How can you take these thoughts and pour them on yourself first, grow from them, prune from them, and then that's the thing that you then, you know, offer out to, you know, whether it's the audience or, you know, the world at large, you know, whatever, to whatever degree you're organizing towards. But it's using self as a site of investigation and as a site of finding deep knowing. I can say the thing because I believe the thing. I believe the thing because I thought about it and I lived with it and I created with it in a way where I was able to see my own reflection. And then that's what I'm able to offer out to the audience.
And as a follow up to that, does your identity or like lived experience shape the aesthetic and the work?
I think I've been really privileged in a way to cross paths with makers that have created these works where I've been able to build work and build my person. I look for those opportunities inside of the work. I look for, and sometimes it's like really on the nose, like I can see it in real time. Sometimes it's like after the fact, I'm like, oh, I grew into that awareness from playing Neb in Priestess of Twerk and having to spend so much time inside of the shadow, and now I'm able to see how that's informing my person. I think it happens in multiple ways, like really intentional, and then sometimes because you just live with a project for a period of time. But I think that um, I don't look to separate myself from the art. I appreciate where art is life and life is art, and where those seams bleed and one informs the other. I think it's the same thing that allows us as artists to be the infectious change makers and stirrers of inspiration that we are, is because we know that those seams are sometimes real, sometimes not, very porous, that we can cross into the lived experience pretty easily.
And how do you see dance or art making as a tool for social change, or do you?
Definitely so, and I think that it's I think that you could actually take those I would scaffold those questions. So it's because the body is the first site, that the first site of change is the self, and then from the self you have the opportunity, because of that conversation between art and life, you have the opportunity to then be in collaboration with your audience witnesses around ideas that affirm or stretch or incite or aggravate. They're all useful ways of activating change. And because I come from where I come from, I think we're supposed to do it. Like artists, you do what you're supposed to do. But the helm that I've been handed and I embrace is that this is your responsibility as an artist.
Beautiful. Let's shift a little bit to the world that we all swim in, the world of institutions and our art making.
Yeah.
So how have institutions supported or failed to support your work?
I'll start with supported. I think so. Generationally, I feel like I came to New York at the time where I feel like maybe like the last of, the generation that's like, you find your institutional home, and that becomes the place that you stay and groom from. I remember being really shocked when the generation after me was like 4 years here and 4 years here, and I'm just like, where's the sustaining in that? Where's the lineage? It was it took me a while to adjust to the change that was happening, because change is supposed to happen. But being of that ilk of you find your homes, I found great homes. I have found a number of institutions that I've been able to be in continued art making inside of those spaces, and that provides that continuum. It allows for the building with the same people over a number of years, or the building of your practice for a number of years in a space where there is trust and where you have invitation to do so. So that I have found grounding. Where they have not supported, I'm presently like swimming through and in some ways being still inside of the waters of what I'm experiencing in terms of injury from institution, and what I'm seeing inside of our arts community. My longtime artistic homes, Urban Bush Woman, joined the company in 2001 and stayed there until it was like the youngest when I joined the company. And then when I stopped performing with the ensemble, I was like the oldest. That was a lot of fun. But that was, has been a mainstay. And in my last iteration of my work there, I was co-artistic director alongside Mamjada Spies. And we came into leadership in 2019 as artistic directors. Yeah. So just, And there's something that's so undeniable, and I think maybe not even articulated yet, about what it means to come into leadership during COVID.
Yeah.
The ways in which we had to remap practice, the ways in which we had to believe in what's possible, even though we couldn't see it, the ways in which we had to be still and then pick up,
Yeah.
has informed our leadership in ways that a friend of mine, Stephanie McKee, she calls it dog years.
Yeah.
Like those leaders, us leaders, we grew something different during that time.
Yeah.
And I believe that being in leadership at that time informed us for how we need to enact change now. So in COVID, it was forced upon us.
Yeah.
Now it's like post-COVID, we have to pick up the things that we practiced and we exercised then, and we have to choose it forward. Mm-hmm. That is my stance because I lived it.
Yeah.
And I crafted it and co-crafted it, is what I, from that first home, is what I believe. And it was a real point of non-negotiation with my role in Urban Bushwoman. We couldn't bridge that that shift of new leadership will be new.
Yeah.
It will organize differently. It will behave and perform differently. We'll still have the same metrics of success that will allow us to be stable, but the way that we get there will be different because our field and our world are necessitating it, and we've been prepared for it differently. Mm-hmm. And so there was real injury in not being able to make that case in the home space, where there was an active choosing of, you have to understand that the new way is done. COVID is done, and we can go back to this other way. It was a kind of like a parachute, and for me, like, if it feels like a breaking of eggs to resign from the organization. There was a choice to reappoint the founding artistic director, and and I was offered a reposition. At this point, and my organizing, art making, and growth, I can't accept a reposition because I can't accept the same because we can't do the same.
Yeah.
We're not the same. Our world is not the same. And as our institutions try to hold on to the same, every marker of what we once needed is being stripped from us.
Yeah.
The funding, our structures, like there's a lens that we could look at it where our field as we knew it is being decimated.
It's in free fall. Yeah.
And there's a way that we can look at it, and it's like exactly what we need. This is the moment for change. This is the moment to remap. And we know how because we just got a rehearsal 5 years ago.
Yes.
Like we rehearsed this. We rehearsed this, we practiced, we performed it, we made it. So we know it. Mm-hmm. We have to choose it. And I think that we have the time right now to still choose it. We'll always have the time. But I think right now we have the time to choose it from a space where we can readily still see resources.
Yeah.
It's free fall, but we're not at the bottom.
No.
You can still choose from the bottom. I don't think we have to.
Yeah. And I don't think that the structures that we have are serving our field.
They're not serving our makers. Shout out to the beautiful and brave folks that I was able to be in an ensemble with and to be in leadership with. They are of, yet another generation where the artists are really investigating labor rights in a way that was not my lens coming into the city and
Yeah.
looking for home and like trusting, leaning into home. They're scrutinizing and coming through in a way that, as a leader, that has grown me, and I'm appreciative of. I'm appreciative of their work. I'm appreciative of the work of some of our advocacy groups. I had the opportunity to collaborate with Dance NYC on a project that they are working on, or it's actually out in the world now, where they're providing certain artist grants for folks that are on these temporal contracts. But as part of that offering to the community, they also have this template of a contract where if you're working someplace and there's not a contract, here's one that's, that you can use. And I looked at it and I'm like, oh, that's better than like I wish I had that contract. Like,
Right. Yes.
and so I think that there's some real great thinking that's happening right now that it would behoove us all to attend to, because we need to take care of our artists. We need to take care of our organizers. If you ask artists, we are care workers. There's, I think, a gross disconnect to ask artists, organizers, leaders to be at the servitude of audiences and communities, and then not be able to have their basic needs met.
If there's one thing that you could change about the way institutions in general are operating right now, what would that be?
The way our organizations work resemble the way that our government is structured, where the power lies, where the decisioning lies, is at the this very topmost, and then down to the folks who are doing the labor and the work have far lesser ability to affect the shape of things. That is a problem. I don't have the solution for that. I can tell you what I tried. I tried to make space to bring more of the conversations, the know-how of the folks who are inside the doing of the work. I tried to make space to bring more of those conversations to the table, invite more of those folks to the room, so that there was a different, what I thought, equity
Yeah.
inside of decisioning. I can tell you what I learned why that doesn't work. So what I realized as being a leader inside of that space was that in fact was not equitable, because I'm still holding 15 more pieces of information and scores of accountability than the folks who I've invited into the space. And without that knowledge base, there wasn't an agreement on how to protect vision and leadership. And I saw that both, I experienced it in my person. I saw it in other spaces where I was in collaboration that was, certainly one of the huge conversations that Nia Witherspoon and I have. Like, oh, leadership vision needs to be protected when there's not an agreement and a value and a knowing of that. That can be injurious, not just to the person, but to the product or to the could be to the movings of an organization. I know that the old way doesn't work. I know that the quick flip, equitable way does not work. I don't know the solution. I think that at best, I think what institutions need to do is try.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we don't have quick fixes. Staying the course.
That's PSAP.
Yes, exactly.
No quick fixes.
No quick fixes. Staying the course of processes as they are. It won't work. It just won't work because nothing around us is in a standstill. Everything else is moving at such momentum and arguably chaos that trying to hold on to what was is just not sustainable. So there has to be change, there has to be shift, and solutions have to be grown.
Yeah. I think a lot about led collaboration, where you're inviting all the voices and all the voices are participating and feel heard and feel they're included. But there still is a lead that's saying like, okay, now we've collected all of this and now we need to go this way. And it's a little bit what you said before about collaboration as opposed to collective. But
I appreciate that.
I do think it's like everyone in the room needs to feel heard, but it also can't be what everyone in the room wants because you won't be protecting the vision of where the project's going, what you're saying about protect the leader or protect the vision. Yeah. But there's something about the way that we make art that is different than the way we're producing art. And that disconnect is extremely problematic. And I think is the source of a lot of the ills of the field right now. And I think it's why we lose audiences too. I think there's something that isn't feeling right that has got to be changed so that we can be in right relationship with our audiences and with each other again.
Yeah, we're in this really ripe season where we have the opportunity to like uproot. Like sometimes I just started gardening this summer. Shout out to Soul Fire Farm. Sometimes you have to take the pitchfork, you have to put your whole body weight in and lean it, and it can be hard to get those, thistle, like it's gonna hold on. And then sometimes when the soil has already been toiled and it's been, you just gotta, and we're at this moment of right now of chaos where the foundation has been faulted so much that it's like, we really can just go like, okay, nah, no more. Like we don't have to, if we're honest with ourselves, we don't have to look for what's not working. It's like glaringly apparent. Now the solutions that I think, I think that's where the work is, and I'm happy to learn of Led Collective because is that, you didn't say Led Collective.
Led collaboration.
Led collaboration, right? Yeah. Good. That's probably no, not Led Collective. That's even better. I'm happy to hear that and to look into it more. But I think that the solutioning, let's pour our efforts into the seeding of that or to the recalling of what has worked before. But I think that this, it's really due time to extract the ways that are not. They're not working for the humans. They're also not profitable. It's just like we're in art business. It's not. It's just not a good model.
Just one other thing on this, and it's about experimentation against commodification. Is there anything that you learned in your time with Urban Bush Women about that, about how an institution can celebrate experimentation and not not giving in to commodification.
One of the things we had, Mamjada Spies and I, our last work that we just created together, Hank Blue, we had some really brave collaborators that went on the ride with us for that. Junebrook Productions, Live Arts Miami, The Yard, Williams College, Mass Mocha, Icka's Pillow were also partners, St. Mary's Church.
Amazing.
And inside of this project, it asks for somewhere between a 2 to 3 year commitment for organizations to partner with us in the researching of their communities, and that included the stories that the people hold, the stories that the waterways and the land hold, the stories of Black liberation and Black waymaking or Indigenous waymaking traditions in those various spaces, and then simultaneously building a dance theater work. We hadn't done it before.
Yeah.
We had built works before. We were coming off the heels of having built Hair and Other Stories together. So our shorthand in terms of collaboration was well oiled, but the work was something different, something larger by both scope of time, scope of budget. Like it's a big project. And what we found that worked in terms of experimentation, especially with working with community collaborators, was that there was an equation to it. Mm-hmm. We were learning and embodying, and we were also second homemaking in other folks' space. And so there was something that was required for us in order to build trust and relationship with folks. And so the experimentation wasn't devoid of accountability. And what that looked like, for instance, in a space like Martha's Vineyard, where one of the partners that the Yard put us in conversation with was the Wampanoag tribe. On first visit, we're listening to the stories of the elders. Mm-hmm. On the second visit, they need to see what you're about. They need to see how you're holding their stories. They need to see what do you hold as a practitioner. Mm-hmm. And so we're experimenting, but there's some stakes of being able to name ourselves and our intention and our process inside of what we offer inside of that experimentation, because we're also trying to build a right relationship with them. Mm-hmm. And so I appreciated what I learned about experimentation through this lens of making Hank Blue, because it gave both the space of learn, take in many bits of information, and which I love, like I love oversaturation, and then like,
yes.
What do you make with it? And what you make with it and whatever you share of it is not just for yourself. Like there's owing is probably too strong of a word, but there's a sharing or a telling that is, that it behooves you inside of this space so that you can show up in ways that are integral. That's the type of experimentation that I'm really interested in right now.
Right, that's exciting. That was a beautiful piece too.
Really excited to have the work recognized by our peers in that way.
Mm-hmm. Do you think the spirit of downtown that you first came across when you got here still exists, and where do you see it?
Very much so. I think that it was interesting thinking about coming here and having this conversation with you. And I was like, oh, it's been the building of these multiple works at here and at the Fleet, and doing that simultaneously to my leadership with Urban Bushwoman that has really given form and shape to my aesthetic. I can see the impression both of the folks that I've had the opportunity to collaborate with, the opportunities that I've had, both in these spaces, and then outside that have been like these spin-offs from here that have really, they've shaped my making practice. I was just 2018. I remember Mom Jada and I being at the theater and being like, yeah, kind of not feeling proscenium. And like, and I mean, and she and I talked a lot about, holding responsibility to holding proscenium practice, but not wanting to be a maker in that.
Right.
I love performing it, but it's not where I want to make. And then, I think it might have been like one of those asking you shall receive, because then just right after that, I just got pulled and poured into the spaces here that really was like, oh, this is my actual jam.
Yeah. And how do you think about the relationship to audience in your art making? Because I've seen pieces of yours that have very different relationships.
I am very much, I've been using audience witnesses, audience participants, calling back to the Black ensemble theater traditions of the 1920s and Zora Hurston and those folks who have come from that long practice of that we're in conversation with each other, not disconnected from our Pentecostal church upbringings, that like call and response is expected. You have roles to play inside of that. And it's becoming more and more a part of how I'm making. Right now I'm working on a new thing, and what's been exciting about it is experimenting with having conversations with folks as part of the happening and playing games as part of the experience. It's making sense to me. It's feeling generative. I'm learning from it, and that always lets me know that I'm on the right track if I'm learning from the thing that I'm building. So, yeah, I'm excited for this exchange like this with audience in ways that feel good to folks. I love when Taylor's like, I don't want to force my fun on people. Negotiating that balance of audience having responsibility, invitation, but not, you don't have to be the performer if you don't so choose.
What would a truly sustainable artistic life look like or feel like?
So right now I am juggling between, I'm at University of Buffalo as associate professor there, and I am artist, community, family maker in New York. And I am finding a lot of satisfaction between those. Surprisingly so, actually. I was so nervous about going to the university. I was like, how is this going to work out?
Yes.
And I'm appreciating like that I have these two spaces in Buffalo. I have an office and I can pour into it, and I have supportive colleagues, and I have students that are so down to take the ride with me. I'm teaching jazz, so I get to really stir and funnel into that space. I stay at my family home where my brother and I have created a garden, and so I'm in land. And then I come to New York and my third floor walk up, and I don't have the land, but I have community, I have family, I'm in the home I built, my children are near when they're near. And I have my artist community, and it's where I make, and it's where I'm fed. And so that's working right now. I am not one to make a 5-year, 3-year plan. I've never been. It's like the Virgo, but then I have this Aquarius rising. That's where I'm just like, And so, right now I'm in it, and and I'll just keep listening for when I need to move and shift.
What does legacy mean to you when you think about what you want to leave for artists, for audiences, for the field?
Well, I'm not thinking about leaving right now. Right now, what I'm thinking about is sewing, and my work is integral, it's honest, it's whimsical, because I love love play and I love freedom. And I think those ideas come out with whimsy and magic. And I believe in humans. I do. I believe that we are possible. I believe that the other members of our ecosystem do value us and want us to get our shit together. And I think that we can. And so that's what I'm planning right now through my work.
Thank you so much, Chanon, for
Thank
making
you.
the time. Thanks to HowlRound for hosting us and to you for joining us. We hope you'll come back for more of Torches.